none of the series of targets have been met. In fact, they've all been missed by an awful lot. The final line on the right-hand side is the Paris Agreement of 2015. You will see how ambitious that target is for the year 2030. And the black dots that extend indicate in the intervening year since the promise was made, what progress has been made, which is namely zero.
I'm Silvia. Welcome to Enviro-Station. This is a new project about the environment, about the future, and how these two topics are related. Global warming, increasing wind gusts, air and sound pollution, plastics, world food supplies, and future ideas. We will cover issues from both sides of the fence. We'll feature ways you can reinforce your home against the dangerous realities of nature and the environment. Be sure to watch our new show about the environment and the future. I'm Silvia Vartoth, and this is Enviro-Station.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Enviro-Station 257. Today, we will be speaking with Robert Hoffman from the Canadian Association for the Club of Rome. Hi, Robert. Would you be able to tell us a little bit about who you are and what it is that you do?
I'm the founder of a company called What If Technologies. It's a company that is concerned with the development of systems models, essentially for policy analysis. I've been a member of the Canadian Association for the Club of Rome for many years, also a member of the Club of Rome, also a fellow of the World Academy of Art and Science.
So what do you think would be the three most important environmental problems for the future?
What seems to be most urgent of the top three would be climate. It is my opinion, from my reading of the scientific literature, that we have underestimated the rate of climate change. We are now experiencing the impacts of climate change, and they will just become much more severe over time. Secondly, loss of biodiversity. By and large, our species is claiming more and more, in some sense, of the resources and energy, and biodiversity is collapsing. And from biodiversity is essential for, in some sense, continued harmonious existence. The third major problem, not so much an environmental problem, perhaps, although it has environmental impacts, is growing inequity. By and large, the distance between those who have and those who have not is getting larger and larger. And it's extremely difficult to ask those who have not to focus on larger, longer term issues than their immediate need to satisfy their requirements for food and shelter and the basics of living. And so, this is a third major issue as far as I'm concerned.
Another question I had was going back to, you mentioned neoliberalism and how that system has impacted like climate and these issues we're having. Would you be able to speak a little bit more on that and how neoliberalism has impacted climate change and different policies that have been made to improve or haven't been made to improve our situation?
Well, the neoliberal philosophy that is now manifest in many of our institutions had its origins in mainstream economic theory, and so we economists have a lot of blame to share. What the outcome of this laissez-faire deregulation, small government has really brought about a shift in power and income distribution. So we're now talking about the power of the 1% and government agendas that are driven by the corporate agenda. And there has been a tremendous accumulation of wealth through public corporations into the upper income people. So, Silvia, a question for you. Do you share my hope as a young person that your generation will be able to drive the changes that are required and the mess that essentially you have inherited from my generation?
Well, I do feel that I think many of us in my generation are very hopeful that we can turn this around. But as you said, hope and optimism are different things. I think optimism is definitely dropping like a lot in my generation, and I think there's a significant divide of some people think like believing that there is still hope and optimistic that we can bring change, and then there's the other half that believe that it might just be too late at this point, and there's just not much else that can be done.
I was going to say the anger and frustration is now being manifest, well, particularly in Ottawa, with the actions that are being taken on Parliament Hill, led by the truckers. There seems to be an attempt to misrepresent or not understand where that anger and frustration is coming from, even though it's just being shown by a relatively small group of people. I think it is being shared much more broadly than our governments perceive.
Another thing I think in my generation is that a lot of us are angry with the systems and institutions, like the government, and how they're not really doing their part, and how this, I feel like in our generation, has downloaded a lot of the responsibility onto us as individuals, and that really the responsibility to change and have a better future is on us individuals, which is to a certain extent, yes, individuals do have a lot of power and can bring change, but that I personally think most of the responsibility is, or not responsibility, but the power is in the hands of institutions and governments, and they're just not doing what is needed to be done. And that's really putting a lot of pressure on individuals, which creates just a lot of divide between people, I think, which has also really not had a great effect on my generation, I feel like. And that really just, yeah, I think that's where the optimism kind of drops in our in my generation.
It's a spirit that holds that even though something is improbable, there is still a possibility and a desire to make the desired outcome taken place. Am I optimistic that it will? Do I believe that our societies and our culture can change rapidly enough at the global scale? That to me is now a very difficult proposition. But as I said, it's one for which we should hold out hope that these kinds of changes can occur as it becomes clearer and clearer that such changes are absolutely necessary if our species is to survive and thrive in harmony with natural systems over time.
Well, thank you so much, Robert, for joining us today. And thank you everyone for joining us for the second episode of Enviro-Station 257.